No, it's done. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharmila, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning. Welcome to everyone present in Worship Hall this morning, and to those who may be taking part via electronic streaming from your home or wherever you may be. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all who have ears to hear, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this time. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through email at welcome@firstunitarian.ca. Following our service today at 11:30 a.m., please join us as well for a special version of our traditional hospitality hour. You will find the Zoom link on our website at firstunitarianottawa.ca or in our weekly email newsletter, the EUU. I'd now like to call upon Phil Nagy from our board to make some announcements.
Good morning. I'm Phil Nagy. I have a couple of announcements from the board and a couple from the Environmental Action Committee. The first announcement from the board is that we have a new refugee family coming. There was an exciting decision at our September board meeting. FirstU will be partnering with our tenants, the Jewish congregation or Hanashema, and with a former refugee family to sponsor a new family of 9 people to come to Ottawa from Syria. The financing of this settlement will be shared by the 3 partners. You will have a chance to donate in the next several weeks. As well as financially, you'll be able to contribute in other ways. We're going to need help with the extensive paperwork required, and we're going to need help providing the new family with regular personal assistance in adapting to life in Canada. If you can provide a small part of that help and want to get involved, contact Kathy Yaw of our Refugee Action Group. And the second announcement is about our pledge campaign. We had a great kickoff last week to our 2022 pledge campaign. Some 22% of us participated in making their pledge in the first week, and those pledges amounted to $137,000, or 38% of our target. I'm sure you're anxious to know how and where to pledge. If you've got a pledge with you now, you can put it in the box at the back on the welcome table. You may have had a pledge form mailed to you. If not, you can get one at the website. You can follow the links from Make a Donation in the top right corner through Annual Giving to Make Your Pledge Online. That's at www.firstunitarianottawa.ca, Make a Donation, Annual Giving, Make Your Pledge Online. Now here's this week's environmental action. Find the drafts in your home and fix them. Make a quick inspection of doors and windows to determine where cold air is getting in. You can use your bare hand for large leaks or a candle for smaller ones. The flame dances around or pulls in one direction, you have found a leak. Then you can fix it. And this week's advocacy. Immediate action is needed. A motion on phasing out gas plants in Ontario goes to City Council on Wednesday. Letters close to a vote are very effective. Write to Mayor Jim Watson, copy to your city councillor, encouraging them to support the motion to request Ontario to develop a plan to phase out gas-fired electricity generation. For links and further information, you can look at the Climate Confrontation page on the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. During the continuing responses to COVID, we encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter, check our Facebook page, or the web page for notices and updates. Our calendar is as full as ever, albeit much of it online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are part of our spiritual community.
Sharmila, Phil, thank you. Bonjour, mes amis. Good morning, one and all. We are here together on this quiet, if damp, still early October morning. I am the Reverend Eric Meter, this congregation's minister, pastor, servant leader, call me what you will. We light our chalice this morning by these words from A. Powell Davies. What are we, any of us, but strangers, and sojourn forlornly, wandering through the nighttime until we draw together and find the meaning of our lives in one another, dissolving our fears in each other's courage, making music together, and lighting torches to guide us through the dark. May the light we kindle in our time together now guide us once again through the dark and into the bright dawn of courage. Our chalice is lit. And before our story for today, chosen by our Director of Religious Exploration, Naomi Axley, and presented by Anusha, let us hear now our first hymn, Come Ye Thankful People. Before Anusha comes forward, I should have mentioned that our music director, Jen Bernstrom, is ill today. She has recorded our music for us this morning. Anusha?
Sorry. Hi, my name is Betsy, and this is Mr. T. I'm only 7, but he is 70. You wouldn't know to look at him. He never seems to age. He slowly moves around the house and doesn't have a cage. One day when I was playing with him, I suddenly felt quite sad. "What's the matter?" Mom said. "You're usually so glad." "It's Mr. T," I said to her. "I think there's something wrong. To carry that big house all day? He has to be so strong. Do you think it stops him from having fun like me? I've never seen him run or jump, as happy as can be. Oh, my dear, you mustn't worry. Mr. T is fine. Turtles have different needs in life. They're not like yours or mine. The nature of a turtle is harmless, quiet and shy. They love to hide inside their shells when people pass them by. So Mr. T is very grateful for everything he's got, which means he doesn't worry about things he has not. Let's play a game together, Mom said. I call it gratitude. It'll help you understand. Mr. T, are you in the mood? Mom takes me to the garden, and just behind the flowers, picking up a stone, she says, "This has superpowers." Every time you're upset, when things don't go as planned, you take out your gratitude stone and hold it in your hand. The stone will work its magic, and soon you'll begin to see everything that's happening is how it's meant to be. No sooner had we gone inside, the sky began to rain. Tears began to fill my eyes. I wanted to go out again. Remembering my special stone, I squeezed with all my might. What could I be grateful for when rain was in my sight? But just then I remembered, without it, plants won't grow. Fish wouldn't live in the sea, and rivers wouldn't flow. Thank you, sky, for raining. You're really rather clever. Now I know the job you do. You can rain whenever. Next morning, when it's time to wake, my body's filled with dread. Going to school is the last thing I want. I'd rather stay home instead. Beneath my pillow is my stone. I squeeze it once again, remembering the friends I'd see and my teacher, Mr. Blaine. At school, I had forgotten today was Siblings Day. I don't have any siblings, so I didn't know what to say. My stone will have the answer, I thought. I'll squeeze it and we'll see. Of course, I said. I'm grateful because I have Mr. T. At dinner time, it worked again. When Mom put down my plate, no yummy cake but rice and veg, which I didn't appreciate. But then I remembered the children who aren't as lucky as me to have a healthy and warm meal cooked by their mommy. At bedtime, when I'm not tired, I want to play instead. I'm grateful for my turtle PJs and warm and cozy bed. But just then, I remember, I'm not even carrying the stone. Mom, I shout. I did gratitude, and I did it once again. Of course you did, my darling, because gratitude is in there. Upon my heart, she places her hand. With the other, she strokes my hair. So gratitude is in all of us, I said, and we all have to do it. Is stop and think how thankful we are instead of feeling blue. Next day, during playtime, there is a new boy there, with shiny braces on his teeth and curly light brown hair. Tears are falling down his face. He wished he had not moved, a decision made by his parents, and he had not approved. I tell him of the gratitude stone, and I ask if we can find something to be thankful for that he can bear in mind. He holds the stone and thinks a minute, a smile across his face. I'm thankful for a new home. The garden has so much space. Now, every time I go out, I make sure to have with me at least one stone to pass on along with my story. The more we share about gratitude, the happier we will be. Will you share this story and help other children like me? Thank you.
Our call to worship is by Kimberly Ann Tomzak Carlson. It is not by chance that you arrived here today. You have been looking for something larger than yourself. Inside of you, there is a yearning, a calling, a hope for more, a desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone nurtured you into being, instilling a belief in a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you began seeking a beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its arms open to possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Come, let us worship together.
My name is Reverend Ellen Bell. I am the spiritual care visitor for this congregation. At this time in the service, we invite people to submit personal joys and sorrows so that we may recognize them and either congratulate or commiserate. We do this by placing stones in water and allowing the ripples to carry the messages out to the universe. There were no personal messages today, but I have a few more global kinds of things. A stone of gratitude on this Thanksgiving weekend for the fact that we live in this country and that we don't live in some other places that are having some terrible difficulties, such as a stone of sorrow for Lebanon, who have just lost all their power grid, so they have no power and no idea how long they will be out. And a stone of sorrow for the ongoing difficulties in Afghanistan. And I'll put one more stone for all the other places in the world that are having major problems, the kinds of things we don't even think about in this country. And one last stone for all the joys and sorrows that are kept in the recesses of our hearts. We will now have a moment of silence.
This morning's reading is from Richard Wagamasi, One Drum. There was a man who worked at the lodge. He was a tall man who grinned easily and talked slowly. When he spoke to me the first time, I felt accepted, and I began to approach him with questions. He'd been raised traditionally in the ways of his people, and he was humble and quiet about it. In the language of the lodge, he was my sponsor, but I always preferred the word friend. The more we talked, the more I came to trust him. See, there were things within me from my childhood that I was afraid to allow out into the light. They sat in me like stones and made any kind of movement hard. I didn't know how to let them go. He sensed this and took care to let me begin the conversation about those things at my own pace. After a couple of months, he gave me a mission. I was to trek into town. Then I was to find a fabric store and buy 2 yards of whichever color of cotton cloth appealed to me, along with some string. After that, my mission was to buy a tin of tobacco and then return to the lodge. While I was performing these errands, I was to think about the things I was thankful for. When I returned, he took me for a long walk out onto the land. We stopped beside a stretch of the creek that followed a wide graveled curve. It was brilliant. The sky was a perfect blue, and there was a slight hint of a breeze. He sat on a large boulder and handed me a pair of scissors. When you think of something that you are grateful for, he said, take the scissors and cut a small square from the cloth. Put a pinch of tobacco inside, twist it, and tie it with the string. Sit longer and think of something else. When something else you're thankful for comes along, do the same thing again. Do it until you can't think of any more. Then come to me, and we will take your string of tobacco offerings and leave them high in a tree by the water. We will offer them back to creation. It seemed an odd thing to me, but I wanted so much to learn and to be free of the burdens I carried that I did as he instructed. I sat among a small clutch of boulders with my feet on a smaller rock that sat in the water. There were trees around me, and it felt like a small nest. I sat there for hours. When I emerged, I had a long string of tobacco bundles. I offered thanks for my health, for the clarity of my mind, for the full use of my senses, for my sobriety, for the teachings I was receiving, and in the end, when I was really into the energy of the ceremony, I offered thanks for the difficulties I had encountered and for what they were able to teach me. When I handed him my string of prayers, because that's what they were, he hugged me, and I climbed a tall tree and left those prayer ties high in the branches. We talked on the way back to the lodge, and I told him of the things I had included in each of those small bundles. When we're sick or at dis-ease, he said, we forget how powerful a medicine gratitude is. Gratitude is expressing your belief in the existence of gifts, even those you can't see. So when you become thankful, you create a powerful energy, and that energy goes outward and becomes a part of the greater energy all around us, and you learn to heal. When you return from your thankfulness to the land, you were recognizing where it came from. It came from the ability to be humble, to see yourself as a sacred part of everything.
Thank you, Sharmila. Before this worship service formally started, I was talking to one of those who will be our host to this afternoon's hospitality hour, and they were saying that with the holiday today, things were going to be a little shorter, a bit less formal today. And I couldn't help back to think, if I'm doing the math right, 18 years ago, when I was a guest preacher at an African Methodist Episcopal church in the townships of Soweto outside Johannesburg, and how grateful I was when I learned that because of a large rugby match that afternoon, the service would be shorter, especially as I was just asked to preach the night before. The service only went on for 2.5 hours. Being the born and bred Unitarian Universalist that I am, I had never experienced that in a home church, let me put it that way. I will not keep you here anywhere near that long this morning. 180 years ago, this past May, so a little while ago now, the Unitarian minister Theodore Parker preached at the ordination of his junior colleague, Charles Shackford, on the passage found in Luke 21:33. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not fade ever. Paraphrased a little bit. Parker titled his address, A Discourse on the Transient and Permanent in Christianity. This morning, if that introduction hasn't bored you enough already, I want to reflect on the meaning of Thanksgiving. Given that all life, all human constructs and creations have lifespans and will usually change during their time. A bit more recently, in 1992, not quite 30 years ago now, shortly after I had begun my seminary study there, the city of Berkeley, California, dropped the traditional U.S. celebration of Columbus Day in favor of that nation's first formal Indigenous Peoples Day, timed for the 500th anniversary of Columbus's landing in the so-called New World. Not quite 2 weeks ago now, Canada celebrated its first formal National Truth and Reconciliation Day. And here we are, just a little bit further in the calendar, on Thanksgiving weekend. Though this observance has only taken part on the second Monday, the second weekend of October, since 1957. The holiday was moved to this time so that it would not compete with November's observance of Remembrance Day. And of course, moving Thanksgiving to October more closely brought it into alignment with the harvests made then as well, closer to that time. But all those are political decisions regarding what are both private and public recognitions. If, as I hope it will, Canada's Truth and Reconciliation initiatives continue to expand, I am sure that they will affect how Canadians view public expressions of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving will need to be seen in a more complex and nuanced light. How the Indigenous people saved many settlers from scurvy by introducing them to cranberries, for one surface-level example. I can only wonder, I have no crystal ball, I can only wonder about the changes to come. Frankly, I, for one, generally welcome them, though I imagine, like all change, things dear to many of us will be lost along the way. I wonder how the orange shirt movement and Canada's Truth and Reconciliation process will shift the practice if not the meaning of thanksgiving? Will we find ourselves giving thanks for those who have made us aware of all the unmarked graves of children at residential schools across this nation and beyond? Because that courage certainly demands the light of day. I can't imagine that there are not also unmarked graves nearby residential schools in other nations. I mean specifically the nation of my birth, the nation to our south. While the news of these findings has been chilling and shaming, we can celebrate the courage and convictions of those who brought such practices to light. And if there is one thing I take on faith, it is that human beings, as long as there will be human beings, will have an inherent need and desire to give thanks. Empty rituals and other rote expressions, whether they be of thanks or anything else, end up simply speeding the way for new, more vital and meaningful forms of expression. One way of giving thanks may fade away, but you can count, you can bank that another will take its place. I can only wonder about the form Thanksgiving takes, how that will change over time. Examples of stories like the one Anusha shared with us earlier and the one her mother shared from Richard Wangamis and his sponsor or friend keep the possibilities, at least some possibilities, before us. I like the idea of making bundles for each of the things we're grateful for. I like the idea of carrying a small stone to keep us grounded in gratitude. And those are but two small examples. And on a personal note, at this time of year, as the 30th anniversary of my father's death is just 2 weeks from now, I find myself thinking of him more often, as I do most autumns at this time. I had barely begun to set some of my 20-something angst I had carried for him aside in the months before he died. I was barely able to say thank you to him before he breathed his last. In the years since then, I found so many reasons to be grateful that all that he gave me. To see a picture taken of the two of us when I was maybe 7 years old, I had never seen. We're in the woods, and he's crouched down behind me, pointing to something, showing me something he wanted me to pay attention to. In the fall, leaves on the trees were just like this. He gave me his best. Now, I can say, of course, that he was an imperfect father. He was a human being, after all. I wasn't mature enough at 26, 27 to say so before he died. I wonder what rituals those of us who wish to find and proclaim the courage of their gratitude will find useful in the years to come. And those are two words I've never thought of in combination with one another. I've never seen them paired, I don't think. And there is every reason to pair them together: courage and gratitude. Sometimes to say thank you does take as much courage as it does maturity. And as such, as much as outward expressions will and do change over time, what gives shape to them is most often constant: love, gratitude, thanks. Before I close this reflection, I want to share a passage with you titled "With Eyes That See" from Marta Valentine. colleague of mine. I think in these short lines we may find a glimpse of what the future of Thanksgiving may become, or at least a vehicle by which it may be created. I quote her now. Looking away from my computer screen, my day becomes suddenly arrested by the glory of a maple tree with its yellow and orange leaves. I see the sun showing it just so, shining. For a moment, the tree seems to be on fire, and the barn beyond it starting to smoke. I laugh, grateful to be halted from mundane things, jolted into the splendor of the natural world. I pause to express my gratitude, dropping into my heart. I remind myself that even as I behold this splendor, a more spectacular sight, a greater vision of true art, is to see other people as they are. Unlike the marbled kind that fill museums, the real art, the kind artists strive to imitate, sits peacefully right next to us, or sometimes yells in our faces. The real art is in all shades of skin, all textures of hair, the shapes of bodies. Which ones do you notice first? What we see, what we want to see, and accept into our vision of community what is most familiar. At least this seems to be human default. But the true exercise in seeing others as works of art in our communities is to look for who is not there and should be. When we open our eyes and truly see, we become one with the universal living museum that embraces the beauty of all. And while Valentine doesn't say it outright, it certainly seems that she understands the intersection of courage and gratitude. To echo her words once more, a greater vision of true art is to see other people for who they are. And then, as she closes, when we open our eyes and truly see, we become one with the universal living museum that embraces the beauty of all. May each of us open our eyes to know that we are part of a living movement of embracing beauty. And if that seems like a promise more than a reality, well, even promises deserve our thanks. So may it be. Happy Thanksgiving. Amen.
This is a time in our service that we usually accept the offering. You may go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how you may keep up with your pledge or make a donation during these very unusual times. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. Please join us as we listen to our next hymn, We Give Thanks.
Before we close this time of worship and reflection, a reminder that our hospitality hour will begin online at 11:30. The link is on the church's website and was included in Friday's edition of our EUU. To those in our worship hall, we welcome you to congregate after the service safely outside. As you do so, please be mindful to stay masked and maintain social distancing. We extinguish our chalice this morning to these words, adapted for those from Erica Hewitt. And I would ask you, if you're sitting with someone inside your bubble and you want to, take their hand. If not, reach out a hand to those near you. We cannot gather and touch hands safely, but reach out a hand to those around you. The hand outstretched towards yours belongs to a person whose heart is sometimes tender, whose skin is sometimes thin, whose eyes sometimes fill in wonder, and whose laughter is a beautiful sound. The hand outstretched towards yours belongs to a person who is seeking wholeness and trusts that you are doing the same. As you leave this worship hall, may your hearts remain open, may your voices remain strong, and your hands always be outstretched to neighbor, friend, and family alike. This morning's chalice is extinguished, but our connections and our faith remain. Let us have now our closing song. Go in peace, my friends. Go in love. Go in joy. May all be well and happy, happy Thanksgiving to one and all.